Hey everybody, I wanted to make a quick video talking to you all about how I do the Latin at home. I am a Challenge A director, but I also have one of my own kids in my class this year. So I have this assignment sheet that I've made for him. He's a checklist kind of a kid. I did this with my oldest and it worked really well for him, and he, transitioned into creating his own lists. But at this point, for this kid, I'm making the list. And anyway, so for Latin, every single day there's an element of flashcard review, copy work, and declining that is done. So this particular list is preparing him for week 5. The text that we had discussed in class during week 4 was pages 17 through 21. So we have a Wednesday community day, so our day 1 is always Thursday. Anyway, I am on a slightly modified schedule, so I know that for us week 5 might look a little different than what you're doing, but the concepts are still the same. It doesn't really matter where you are in the book. Anyway, so every day he does flashcards. As you can see, that I actually have that first and foremost on every single day's list. I wrote flashcards and rules. The rules, honestly, he's getting that by doing the copy work. Sometimes I will sit down and ask him some questions about the rules, and we just kind of go over those verbally. We don't do flashcards with the rules. He just does a lot of copying. Anyway, so flashcards, and then, for example, this copy work, I said 3 times he's going to copy the first and second declension noun endings. What that looks like is, you can see over here, I have this little workbook I made for him. Anyway, so what he'll do is he will take his wipe-off marker. There's a plastic sleeve on here. If you cut the holes off where the 3-hole punch for a binder is, you can slide this page on and off wherever you want it in a bound book. Anyway, so he has been copying first declension and second declension. That's kind of where we are. So he literally copies it, erases it, copies it, erases it, copies it, erases it 3 times. The original is right up there if he needs to look at it. If he's got it down, then he can just avoid that and copy it. So I have him do that 3 times. He's copying, at this point, first and second declension noun endings. And then he's going to decline 3 nouns from the new vocabulary, since this homework that he's working on this week will cover pages 17 through 21. That is where they introduced the second declension serus and second declension bellum nouns. So he's got the masculine and the neuter. So there were a good handful of vocabulary words, and so I split them up to declining 3 of those per day. Again, in that workbook, I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around here. In my workbook, it says page 17. So if we go to page 17, we will find where he will start declining. I'm sorry, it's not page, that's page 17 of the textbook. That's right. See, there's page 17. So he's declining 3 nouns from page 17. And in the workbook where we have space for it, he just finds 3 nouns that he needs to do. So he's already done this part: serus, ilius, and deus. So he will decline those. And let's see what else. And because this is day 1, he's going to review and read on his own the textbook from the pages that we had discussed in class. So anyway, I just want him to touch it again and get a solid understanding. So he's going to read everything that does not involve exercises. So he's reading all of this stuff with the rules and things like that. So, and that's kind of it for day 1. It's certainly doable. Then the next day, again, we'll go over the flashcards again. Sometimes he does it on his own. Many times he comes to me and I quiz him on the flashcards and we just run through them really quickly. At this point, he's doing all the flashcards for all of the vocabulary he's been introduced to so far. Now this time, instead of first and second declension noun endings, I have him copying second declension nouns and noun endings. Again, in my workbook, I have page 113. So if I come over here, you find page 113. Actually, page 112 has the answers, page 113 has a blank. So he will take that protective sleeve off from before, and he'll slide it over this, and he'll copy it. Now, even though he hasn't been introduced to all of this vocabulary yet, there's no harm in him getting ahead of the game and learning these. So he will just copy this information from this page onto this page with his wipe-off marker. And I just have him do that one time. As you can see, when it's just endings and it's quick and easy, I have him do it 3 times. Here, I'm just have him copying the translations of those nouns. Again, he's going to decline 3 more nouns, and this time he has a couple of exercises that we're going to work on. So at this point, because he's so new to the game, I am sitting down and starting those exercises with him. So exercise 11 had him tell what form they are and give the English meaning. Now, we had already done a couple of these in class to get started, so I sat down with him, made sure he knew what he was doing, and then I circled just a handful. I tried to find some that had different endings, and I said, you know, here, do this, and then let me know when you're done and we'll go over them. So we did that. I just have him do a notebook paper. There's so much more room, and he's able to spread out, and we can make corrections if we need to. But anyway, here is his exercise 11. I am also having him on his exercise pages. He does them in this, he's a lefty, so he doesn't like the spirals, but essentially a spiral notebook. And anytime he's done with an exercise, he turns the page and does the next one. So exercise 12, I believe was, I'm sorry for bouncing all over the place. Exercise 12 were these. We had done a couple of them in class. I circled a handful that I wanted him to do for homework. I made him go through these together with me. We circled the endings. Actually, here's basically the steps that I want him to do. Circle the endings, identify the declension and gender, identify the case and number, label everything, and then translate. So that's what he's doing here. So once he went through that process, you know, I checked them and everything looked great. So I think that was exercise 11 and 12. That was it for that day. So easy enough. Not too much, not too fast. Over here, flashcards. Here I wanted him to review specifically Rule 11018, where the pronunciation is. I think we had talked about it. He had some questions, so I wanted him to review that. I added that in there. Again, he's copying the declension endings, declining 3 more nouns, this time exercise 13 through 15. So we had done some of these in class, and then I have him, you know, go through the steps in the process where he's labeling and doing all of that. We're working through that together. When I see that he pretty much has a handle on it, then maybe I'll let him, you know, do some on his own. So there's exercise 14, exercise 15. And I just had him do a couple of sentences. I don't think at this point, he doesn't need to do all of the problems. Remember, this is just their first touch. It's challenge A. So they're going to come back through and do more of this next year. Granted, it will be at a much faster pace. But here, I'm not trying to overwhelm him. I'm just trying to help him understand what he's doing. Let's see. For day 4, again, flashcards and rules. And I have him preview and highlight, which I do this with, because I'm a Challenge A director, I have all of my kids in my class do this. I give them a heads up on the pages that we're going to go over in class the next day, and they preview and highlight them so they come to class ready to talk about those concepts. But anyway, again, he's going to decline 3 nouns, and then he's going to do exercises 16 through 18. I want to show you something here, like, let's see, we did some of these in class, but at home he did several of them. I could tell that he knew what he was doing, so I actually had him do just a couple of them out loud with me. So I try to record that in here. I think this actually is the next week. If I'm having him go through this entire process, it takes a while. So there's no way we're going to get to 10 of these. We did 2 of them. I knew he knew what he was doing. I thought it was great, and we moved on. I think these, I don't remember what exactly that was, but that was easy enough to do. They were short and easy. He just did them out loud. So I'm trying to record what we're doing. As far as the translating, as they get into longer sentences, so as you can see, he's going through this process, finding the verb, labeling, circling the noun endings, declension, gender, case, number, and labeling, and then translating. So I have him do that for, I think that one had been done in class, but I have him do that for a couple of them. And then, as you can see, I'm like, here, why don't you try this one on your own? And this time I'll let you, well, actually, I think he had done that one on his own as well. But it's like, this time, just look at the endings and label them across the top. I didn't have him write all the stuff. I wanted to see, can you translate? Are you properly recognizing the different parts of speech and the different noun jobs? And can you translate? So I think there's different levels that you can ask of them. One, I can have him do all the things, but that's a lot. And so there's no way he's going to get to a ton of sentences doing that. So maybe sometimes after doing a couple of these, I'll let him do it this way where it's not quite so laborious, I guess. Anyway, so as you can see, when he makes a mistake, I have him mark it out and do it with a red pen. So it's very easy to kind of see what pages that he did, and if he's misspelling a word, I'll make him copy it. But anyway, I don't know if this makes any sense, and hopefully this is helpful. Just don't be overwhelmed by the sheer volume of problems. Pick a few out. Try to make sure you're understanding the concepts. If the text is telling you that we're learning about direct objects or whatever it may be, do they understand how those sentences work? And anyway, hopefully this is helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.